Hi everyone, and welcome to English for You. I'm Pat.
And I'm Mike.
And today we're starting a 3-day article about slang. We're going to look at some slang terms a bit later on, but we're actually going to start out discussing why it is important to learn slang as well as the more formal English that we usually teach. So let's get the ball rolling with just a few words of different pieces of slang, maybe from the UK, from Canada.
Okay.
I'll start you off with one from my own hometown.
Yes.
We have something called a cob, C-O-B.
Okay.
And a cob in my hometown just means a bun with something in it. A chip cob, that's a bit more British English, is basically fat French fries stuffed in a roll. But in other parts of the UK, that could be a butty, a sandwich, a tea cake, a balm cake, and a whole bunch of other things.
Interesting. Okay, so it's not the corn cob.
Nope.
And I think there's also a small boat called a cob.
I think so,
Maybe
yeah.
It might be named after that because it's kind of small and roundish. I don't know. That's an interesting one. Okay, in Canada, here's one that I've never used, but I heard someone use it not too long ago. You know hoodies?
Yeah.
Those sweaters, sometimes they have a zipper and they have a hood. In parts of Canada, that's called, and I find this still very strange, a bunny hug.
A bunny hug?
A bunny hug.
All right.
I don't know. I've never heard that one. Maybe they're more popular these days. So maybe because they became more popular, people came up with one. And we have another well-known Canadian piece of clothing, a warm hat.
Sure.
That might be called a beanie in some places, or a winter hat. And in Canada, we call it a toque. T-O-Q-U-E. And I think this actually comes from that funny mushroom-shaped hat that French chefs wear. That's also called a chef's toque.
Oh, there we go.
The shape is a little different, right? The winter one often has that little ball on the top, but it's a funny looking hat.
Right. So, of course, if you guys were out in a Canadian winter, your host maybe might say, don't forget to put on your toque and your bunny hugger.
Exactly.
And
I think it's just a bunny hug.
A bunny hug.
I think so,
okay?
yeah.
And you would wonder, what on earth are they saying?
What are you talking about?
Right. And that's why it's important to learn slang. And that's what we're going to get into in our article. Let's check it out.
Reading. How studying slang can help you. 6 teachers give their opinions on learning English slang.
Teacher number 1. When you're writing formally for school, you want your English to be formal as well. However, when you're speaking to people, you'll often hear and need to use slang. Slang is informal language and it's everywhere, in professional situations as well as on the street. If you want to communicate clearly with everyone you meet, it's necessary that you understand slang.
Teacher number 2. Slang words and phrases start within groups of people, and using the slang helps people in that group build an identity. Because of this, there's a huge connection between slang and culture. This is especially true of minority groups. Learning slang is important because it gives people a window into that culture.
Teacher number 3. Learning slang helps prevent misunderstandings. Sometimes slang may sound offensive when in fact it means something else entirely. For example, you're chatting online and someone's reaction to your funny post is, "I'm weak." This might sound like they're insulting you, but in fact, they're claiming to be weak with laughter. Understanding slang can also stop you from upsetting others.
So the format of this article, or the first 2 days of it, is 6 different teachers. 6 teachers give their opinions on learning English slang. So each one has a different point. And of course, what is slang? It is informal phrases and words usually used by particular groups, from people from an area or a country or a particular social group or something. It's used in particular contexts, usually. You could have sports slang, music slang, that sort of thing. And it's more often in speech than in writing.
Only if you're writing a character, what they're saying, maybe. And I guess also a thing with slang is it often changes from generation to generation.
Oh, of course.
So the slang that your parents used when they were young might be very different from the slang you use, and often you have to explain new slang to older people like us or your parents. So let's look at teacher number 1. This is this teacher's opinion on slang and why it might be useful to learn. Well, the teacher says when you're writing formally for school, you want your English to be formal as well. Absolutely. If you're writing formally, you're writing in a sort of proper kind of way, in a serious kind of way. You're not writing what a character is saying. You're writing maybe a paper for your history class or a science project or something like that. When we talk about formal, we talk about in a way that sort of fits institutions. It follows rules. It's not casual. It's not relaxed. It's the kind of stuff you use on Monday to Friday at school or work, not the stuff you would use or not how you would dress even on the weekends or at night when you're with your friends. Okay, so formal is a suit and tie. Informal is a shirt and shorts when you go to the beach. This kind of idea.
And of course, formally is the adverb form, to do something or write or speak in this way. So of course, if you're writing formally and speaking formally in a class, you want to do that, write formally, speak formally as well. As well just means also, too, in the same way.
Yes, so when you're writing formally in a formal kind of situation, you don't use slang. That is a very good tip. However, this is teacher 1 again speaking. However, when you're speaking to people, you'll often hear and need to use slang. Absolutely. It's something that's used in social groups, and so you'll definitely hear it. And if you want your English to sound more natural and to kind of fit in with the group or the culture or the place you are, using slang is a great shortcut to doing that.
Yeah, the article and the teacher continues, slang is informal language and it's everywhere in professional situations as well as on the street. Because of course, people are going to use business slang, business terms. So yeah, you'll hear it in offices as well as just people playing basketball in a court on the street, that kind of thing. It's informal, so it's not formal. It is casual and relaxed.
And when we use the word professional, here we're not necessarily talking about like a professional musician or a professional athlete. We're talking about, in a similar way, your job. A professional musician, their job is playing music. If we're using it in this adjectival sort of way, we're basically talking about your career, your working life, as opposed to your home life, your relationships with your friends outside of work and things like that. So in my professional life, we're talking about your time at work, at your job, your career. For example, Harry works hard in his professional life, but he also needs to take care of his health.
So slang is used in professional situations. A professional situation could be a meeting, could be a job interview, could be a big, anything that happens, just a conversation with a coworker. Because when we use the word situation, we mean a certain and a specific set of circumstances. This is where you are. This is what's going on. This is who you're talking to. This is what you're talking about. All of those details make up the situation that you are in. For example, in an emergency situation, stay calm and call 119. So an emergency situation, there's a fire in your house. There's a thief in your house. Somebody's fallen down, hurt, and needs an ambulance. That's an emergency situation.
Absolutely. And we also use the phrase as well as. This is basically saying and or also in addition to. We're adding something that's very closely connected or an idea that's very closely related to something we said or wrote before.
So the teacher continues, if you want to communicate clearly with everyone you meet, It's necessary that you understand slang.
And communicate. Well, of course, when we talk, when we write, when we say things to other people, write things to other people, hear things from others, even if we're waving our arms and trying to get someone's attention, we might be communicating. We are exchanging information from person to person. The easiest way to do this is to talk to someone or to write to them, but there are, of course, many other ways that we communicate, even using parts of our body, like waving or something like that. For example, Melanie finds it hard to communicate with her younger brother. They have a bit of an age gap. Maybe in a few years it will become easier for her to communicate with him. And maybe they need to use the same kind of slang.
That's true. Well, let's now take a moment to look at our language in focus. So the second half of that last sentence in the article was saying it's necessary that you understand slang. And this is the pattern. It's necessary that somebody do something, that somebody be something. Now you could use the word should in here. It's necessary that someone should do this, should be here at this time. You can omit the should and that's fine. And in this sentence, the it is a dummy pronoun. It just makes the sentence complete. It's not referring to a particular thing. This sentence's meaning is to talk about something that's necessary or important. We can, of course, change the adjective. It's important that you do this. It's required that people do this. It's advised that people do this. And so as you can see from those different choices of verbs or adjectives, this sentence pattern is often used to give a suggestion or tell someone a rule or explain something that's needed. And we follow it with a noun clause. So we could say, when you travel abroad, it's necessary that you have a passport. Or we could start the sentence with the pattern. It's necessary that you have a passport if you want to travel abroad. So that's teacher number one's point. Slang is everywhere. You want to communicate with everyone, so you'll need to learn it. What does teacher 2 say?
I think those are some very good points. All right, teacher number 2 goes on to say slang words and phrases start within groups of people, and using the slang helps people in that group build an identity. Well, sure, when you have groups of people, subgroups in a culture, for example, they might talk the same, dress the same, have some of the same ideas and opinions and values. It builds this group identity, this sense of connection between two people or between a group of people.
Yeah, like this is us. This is the way we talk to each other. Only we understand it, so we're part of the group. And because of this, the article says, there's a huge connection between slang and culture.
Absolutely. And this is especially true of minority groups, when you have ethnic or racial or other types of groups that live in a bigger society when they might not have as much in common with most of the people, but they have a lot in common with people like them. These minority groups find it easier and more efficient to build this sort of sense of community and connection. But yeah, using things like similar slang words.
Yeah, and this could also be true of professional groups.
Absolutely.
They would know who each other are because of the way they talk.
If I heard two pilots talking to each other about flying, I probably wouldn't understand half the words they're saying.
Exactly, they're using slang. So the article says, learning slang is important because it gives people a window into that culture. You may not be part of that group, but maybe learning the slang means you can help to understand that group a bit, understand the culture, and sort of connect to it. And very importantly, I should stress, do it in a respectful way.
Absolutely, yes, definitely. That's a very good point. Teacher number 3. Now here's another opinion. Learning slang helps prevent misunderstandings, right? Of course, one of the problems when we're communicating with other people is misunderstandings. When people don't quite get what the other person is trying to say. No one is trying to insult the other person or make them feel bad, but the communication gets a little confused in there, and these misunderstandings can lead to people having their feelings hurt or, starting problems. So we try to prevent as many misunderstandings as we can, and understanding what the person is saying is a good way to do that. To prevent, this verb basically means to stop something from happening. Probably something bad, probably something that you don't want to happen. And so you're taking actions, taking steps, doing things in advance, putting up warning signs, making rules or laws and things like that to try to stop bad things from happening. Here's a good example. Wearing sunscreen helps to prevent sunburn and even skin cancer.
Oh,
absolutely.
Very important.
Wear your SPF, 45 or something, I think is the best number.
So here we're trying to prevent a misunderstanding from happening. A misunderstanding, this describes an occasion where someone doesn't understand something properly, or they get the wrong idea. They maybe don't understand what they should do, or they hear something but they don't quite get it, so they end up doing the wrong thing, and this causes further problems.
Absolutely. And this is especially true with slang, because as the teacher says, sometimes slang may sound offensive when in fact it means something else entirely. Yeah, sometimes if you hear a slang word and you're not familiar with it, you're not part of that culture, you might think that's very offensive, that's very rude. But no. It doesn't mean that in this sense, in this culture, in this community. It means something totally different because, generally people don't like to be offensive. What is offensive? It's rude. When you use swear words, when you make nasty signs to people or call them bad names or things like that, you are being offensive. It's not a good thing to be.
It certainly isn't. And we've got an example here. For example, you're chatting online and someone's reaction to your funny post is, I'm weak.
I'm weak.
I'm weak.
You should go to the gym more?
I don't know.
That's weird.
So a reaction is how someone or something reacts, what they do or say in response to something that already happens first. This happens, then there is a reaction. Think of posts. A reaction to a post could be a thumbs up, a smiley face, a sad face. Could be a comment that you write. Here's another example. What was Ronnie's reaction when you told him the big news? Was he angry? Was he sad? Did he hug you? Did he run out of the room? What did he do? So here the reaction is you've done something or you've said something funny, posted a meme, made a joke, and the reaction is, I'm weak.
If someone wrote ha 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 or even LOL, I would understand they think it's funny.
Yes.
They say I'm weak. Do they mean my joke was weak?
Well, that could be
It's not a good joke? I don't know. So yeah, this could lead to misunderstandings. And also, I have to admit, I don't really understand this slang used when talking about a joke. So let's find out. It says, well, this might sound like they're insulting you. They're being offensive to you. But in fact, they're claiming to be weak with laughter. I can't stand up because I'm laughing so hard. I have to sit down or something because it's a good joke. So this is a positive thing. It wasn't meant to be someone insulting you. When someone is insulting you, they are saying something offensive. They are using bad words. They're calling you bad names. They're using rude hand gestures or whatever to insult you, to hurt your feelings, to make you feel bad. That's what we do when we insult a person. And we can also use this as a noun. An insult is an offensive term, or when someone says something offensive, hey, that was an insult, or you just insulted me. You hurt my feelings and made me upset.
Exactly, but that's not what I'm weak is supposed to be doing.
Gotcha.
The person is saying, I'm weak with laughter. Your joke was so funny, you made me fall down. I couldn't react because it was so funny. I'm hurting. Because laughter, of course, is the sound of someone laughing. It's the body's reaction when there's something funny. It's often something we can't control. It just bursts out of us. So we could say, laughter filled the air as the clown performed for the children. Ha 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 ha, they all went. It was very funny.
That's the sound we hear when we see the smiles on the faces and the eyes are all scrunched up. That's the laughing. The laughter is the sound. Back to the article. Understanding slang can also stop you from upsetting others. Sure. In the same way, you won't be insulted and you also won't insult someone else. To stop somebody or something from verb ing or from doing something basically means to prevent someone. Remember that word prevent, to stop it from happening. That's what we're doing. Or it could be to prevent a particular thing from taking place. Like you might want to stop planning for your picnic because you just heard there will be a typhoon on the weekend. And yeah, with this sort of phrase or this sort of sentence structure, we always use the verb ing form, which makes it easier to remember.
Yeah, stop somebody from planning the picnic, stop somebody from getting upset at this use of slang. So that is our first 3 reasons why studying slang is actually a useful thing to do. Maybe you want to wait until you're in a higher level class, you've learned the basics of English, but slang is still always a good thing to learn. And we've got 3 more reasons in tomorrow's article to add to these. But first, though, let's go to today's For You Chat question.
For You Chat.
So, our question is, what is a piece of slang you've learned recently? And what does it mean?
Okay, here's one that I learned recently. I think they actually added it to the dictionary maybe last year, not long ago, or it was one of the new words they were thinking. And I have to admit, not being in high school, I didn't really know what it meant. So I was glad to have it explained. Cheugy. Cheugy, I believe is how you spell it. Cheugy.
Is it a video game character?
Oh, it could be. Yeah, Cheugy from Sega. No. It's not cool.
Oh, well,
it's out of style.
Makes sense then.
So it would be something you might use to talk about clothes or something. You know, that style of running shoe. Oh, it's so cheugy. Everyone was wearing it 5 years ago, but nobody wears those things now because they're cheugy.
Okay, well, as I was looking at this article and writing it, one that popped up in a lot of the top slang of the last couple of years. Okay. To be honest, a lot of them are COVID related, but we want to stay away from those. Salty.
Salty?
Yeah, so it doesn't mean they taste like salt, like potato chips. It means they're kind of angry and upset about something like, oh, this is an injustice. I was salty when my football team lost in the last minute last weekend.
Wow, okay, because I guess it was slang. We used to talk about salty language.
Yes.
If someone was swearing or saying, you know, not formal words, slightly rude words, you'd say, oh, a man at the bank got very upset with the teller and used some salty language.
I say.
Oh my gosh, so it's changed in meaning a little bit.
Okay, it's still connected. Well, there we go. So there you go. That's 2 pieces of slang you've learned already, and there's more to come. Let's join us again tomorrow and learn more. See you then. Bye for now.
Vocabulary Review.
Professional. To build your career, it's a good idea to attend events where you might make professional contacts. Situation. Timmy found himself in a difficult situation when he left his keys in the house and locked the door. Communicate. It's important to communicate with your family members so that they know how you feel. Prevent. The doctor told me to take this medicine to prevent the illness from making me feel bad. Reaction. James's reaction to your joke was so funny. He couldn't stop laughing. Laughter. Last night's movie was so funny. I almost fell over with laughter.
智慧小补帖
Slang. Misunderstanding. Offensive. Insult.
以上节目是由活用空中美语制作，活用空中美语杂志，请洽询全国各大书店。 如欲索取试听教材，请来电02-2364-4000 02-2364-4000，或上网查询，网址是 www.english4u.net www.english4u.net